tzaddikim, the last step, they did it, they were reincarnated as fish? Yes. Or, I don't know if I interpreted it correctly. Yes, it's true. It's true because the sea is considered a mikveh, a ritual bath. And when they're in mikveh, for there to be any short circuit, any sin, because they're in mikveh. So a tzaddik who still has something to correct, for him to be able to come to this world without the risk of generating new karma, a new tikkun, so then they incarnate in a fish. They live the life of a fish, which is relatively short, and their tikkun is merely when they die. That's it. But they have the guarantee that they're not going to incur in further sins. The problem of the tzaddikim is that when they go to the other world, they don't want to come back down again. Why? Because they can lose the height that they've achieved with so much effort in this world. So they have to be guaranteed that they're going to come down in a state where they won't lose their status. So the status of kasher fish with fins and scales is a state where they don't run any risks. More questions? And if that fish is eaten, in other words, it's fished out and eaten, well, it's been eaten, but they've done their tikkun. Well, before beginning the class, I wanted to offer some commentary, some remarks, an important commentary. It's very nice to come to a Kabbalah class and learn things, but that's not the purpose of this class. Those who want to learn, they can go to school, but this isn't a school. What is it? To understand why we're providing this type of class, we have to explain what's been happening since the year 5760, according to the Hebrew, the Jewish calendar, or since, according to the common calendar, since 2000. Since the year 2000, there's been a creation of an inversion of a system of life that was created when the world was created, called Midat HaRachamim. A system of life that's called Midat HaRachamim. What does it mean? Midat HaRachamim means the quality of mercy. What is the quality of mercy? It means that a temporary system has been set up according to which between the time that you do commit an action, good or bad, until from the universe a reaction comes, a boomerang reaction, some time goes by. And like I explained in previous classes, if that didn't happen, well, then the thief would lose his hand, those who talk badly would lose their tongue, and those who cast dirty looks would lose their eye, and so on and so forth. It would be action-reaction on an immediate basis. But mercy, what does it consist of? Mercy consists of that between the time you act and the time that a bounce back comes back for that action, some time can go by, or it could be a year, it could be dozens of years, or it could be another incarnation, a reincarnation from one to the other. Is that good or bad? Well, for those who do evil, that's good. For those who do good, that's bad. Why? Well, because I'm doing a good action and I don't have my reward right away, because there's some time that goes by. And if I do a bad action, it's good because it gives me a time credit to be able to correct, to do a teshuvah and to come back, etc. But now we see approaching the time where Mashiach is going to manifest since 5760, in other words, from the year 2000. And what's happening is something pretty spectacular. The Midat HaRachamim is inverting to Midat HaDin. What does it mean, Midat HaRachamim to Midat HaDin? The world that before had a time between action and reaction is going to transform. There won't be time between action and reaction. It's going to be immediate judgment. So he who does something bad is going to get slapped back immediately. And those who do something good, they're going to get immediate reward. And what does that mean? It means that the game is over of free will. Game over. The game is over. So what does that mean? That if we see that right now there are 7 billion people, inhabitants, that each person, well, they have 600,000 thoughts per day, multiplied by 7 billion inhabitants or people. The universe is being sent an amount of thoughts that don't have a calculator with enough zeros to figure it out. 600,000 thoughts times 7 billion population every day. That's a lot of thoughts. Now, if we take the percentage of positive thoughts versus the negative thoughts that exist in the world, well, we're going to be spooked. Why? Well, because we're going to see that well over 90% of it all is negative thought. Negative thought is depressive thought. Well, I'm not getting any money. Well, this isn't working well. Oh, my health and so on. Oh, look, these politicians, they're ruining us. This isn't going to work out. Negative thoughts constantly. This regarding negative thoughts against oneself. Negative thoughts against third persons, third parties, that's even worse. Because most conversations that exist in the world is to complain about your neighbor, to lambaste your neighbor. So that's not good either. And so just imagine that from here 2-3 years in the future, that the Midat Adin will heighten, will get more intense, since Midat Rachamin is inverting, is turning into Midat Adin. The credit time that we used to have, that grace period, so to say, is getting shorter and shorter, and so a time is going to come where it's not going to keep getting shorter. It'll have gotten so short that reaction time will be 0. So we have very little time to transform the waves of thought of destruction into waves of thought of construction. And here comes the question. How do you do that? How can I take 7 billion people with their 600,000 thoughts a day and flip the switch for them? Seems like mission impossible. And what does that mean? That if we don't manage to achieve that mission impossible, well, what we're seeing already, which is economic chaos, chaos in relationships, where over 55-60% of divorces, out of every 10 that get married, 5 or 6 get divorced. And then the chaos that occurs because nature that is complaining. I'm talking about earthquakes, I'm talking about tsunamis, I'm talking about floods. All you got to do is turn on the television to say, better off turning it off because everything I'm looking at is horrible. But those horrible things, why is it so hard? Because a chaos that had to occur in a span of maybe 200 years is occurring in a span of 1 year. And so it's condensing, the chaos is condensing. And considering that we haven't gotten to Midat Adin, level 0 is 0 time credit or 0 grace period. That's a problem. Because then, it's not that you're going to hear about a tsunami every 5-6 months. There could be one a day, or an earthquake a day, or a flood per day. And that's because the level of thought, the level of negative thought has a bounce back, and a very strong one. And then we're also talking about the potential wars. The wars over oil, over power or energy. That now we see very hot spots, a lot of hot spots in the world. I'm talking about Iran. Until now, there's been very little time. We've had 2 wars in Afghanistan. No, two wars in Iraq, one in Afghanistan, and now they're preparing almost a generalized war between Western countries and oil countries. And wars, well, I don't know if you know the figures. The Iraq war and Afghanistan war, each one, there's been 1 million dead. And I'm not going to even count the number of wounded. And all of that, what is it? It's the bounce back of negative thought. And now here's my question again. Why are we offering these classes or providing them? The classes are, we want to manufacture here a body. We want to manufacture a body here. And we want to plug into that body. In other words, we're going to imagine that a body gets sick. And we have to give it an antibiotic. Well, if I connect to the leg, or if I connect to my leg, the antibiotic will go through my whole circulatory system of the whole body. So, if we're a body, and we create affinity with the body of humanity, provided if we give ourselves a shot, it's going to get into the circuitry, into the circulation. That's what I'm trying to say. So what kind of antibiotic do we have to apply? Because we have to be very strong so that from this small body, it can make it to the entire global body of humanity. So, well, Kabbalistic statistics tell you that a person that has a positive thought would be equivalent to an antibiotic that could cure 15,000 people that have a negative thought. One person with a positive thought would correct 15,000 people. So now, do a little bit of math. How many of us are there here? 25, let's say, 25? Okay. So 25, doing good meditations, if we multiply that by 15,000, you don't get even near 7 billion people. So what are we doing? Nothing. Nothing. We're not doing anything. Or are we? A lot. What do you mean a lot? One corrects 15,000. And you have 7 billion others. No, those 15,000 will continue to think like that, but their thoughts are nullified. They're canceled because those 15,000, they don't know how to think correctly. So only this small group would have to correct all of humanity. And how do you do that? In other words, with dilutions, you increase the potency. Meditation. Amplification with the Hebrew letters? Yes. So we need an amplifying effect. It's like I buy a little device to record that has a sound, but then I connect home cinema, a plug with very powerful speakers, and I amplify the sound. You have to amplify thought. What the Hebrew letters are thought amplifiers. So let's imagine that we go from 15,000 to 15 million. Well, we're not reaching it, we're not making it. In the astral system, those thoughts, not the 15,000 of each, in the astral system, each one will radiate over a country or a region. That's the final effect, but let's see how you do that. I'm asking for the cause, not for the effect. Indeed, we need a relay. Can you repeat that? Meditate. You're saying intensify and repeat. It is known that each people is governed by a prince or a czar. So if you act directly at the level of the 70 nations, the princes of the 70 nations, you don't need, each one will be the repeater for their own nation. Kaf He Tav. Kafei Tav is using the amplifying system of the Hebrew letters. For example, we need an amplifying system that's more powerful than the Hebrew letters, much more powerful than the Hebrew letters, because otherwise we won't achieve that. So, I want you to know something. When Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, acquired the Torah, actually, it wasn't the Torah that we have today. That's very important to know that. And nor was it written in Hebrew characters like we have it today. The characters that were the first Torah was written with has nothing to do with the Hebrew letters or characters that we know today. And not only that, nor did it relate what the Torah today relates. And it had an amplifying power that was so great that it could bring redemption to the world in a minute. And that first Torah, symbolized by the first tablets of the law, what happened with them? He destroyed them. Moshe Rabbeinu, he destroyed them. He threw them and broke them. And they say the letters flew. That's what the Torah say, and the letters flew. But then Moshe Rabbeinu interceded for the Jews, for humanity, and he was able to convince HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our Creator, and God gave him another Torah, another operational manual, but highly different from the first one, highly codified, with types of signs, which are the two Hebrew letters, which were not the 22 letters of the other alphabet. So the question is, how was the first Torah written, or in what, that had so much power? What was it written in? Well, it wasn't written in a human alphabet. It was written in an angelic alphabet. In other words, of astral beings from another dimension. And those letters that belong to beings of another dimension have a power that's infinitely greater to the Hebrew letters that we know. That's why when we want to pray, and when we want results, and we use Hebrew, and the Hebrew letters, due to the enormous layer of impurity that exists due to the 600,000 thoughts multiplied by the 7 billion people, that's each day, a cyst of dark thought is generated. So our prayer is unable to perforate, to drill, to cross that dark cloud of thought, condensed of evil. And so we expect a result, and there's no result. So then what we need is a much more powerful tool. And so that leads to another question. And where am I going to go look for the alphabet of the first Torah that was destroyed? And how am I going to reconstruct the codes that were so powerful that Moshe Rabbeinu had? And the Zohar Ha Kadosh tells us something. It says that when the toxic angels appeared before Moshe Rabbeinu, when he went for the first Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu issued some codes that scared the toxic angels, who fled in terror before they received the first, because he already knew those codes. What does that mean? That yes, there was an alphabet that was capable of breaking those clouds, those insisted clouds of negative thought. And today, we need, frankly, a spiritual weaponry that's extremely more powerful than what we have currently. So we went to look for that alphabet. And we started to look in Kabbalah books. I started to look and search. And I realized that those angelic alphabets exist, but they are corrupted. What does corrupted mean? That they're falsified. The letters, instead of there being a stroke that goes up, the stroke goes down. Instead of a letter being round, it's got a point. It was corrupted. And so we can't work with a corrupted alphabet. We need to work with an authentic alphabet. And where are we going to go look for an authentic one? The class hasn't begun yet. I'm doing a commentary about why we're doing this class. So I went to look for the wisest man in history. Who was the wisest man in history? The wisest man in history was King Solomon. Okay. And I had to go look at his original writings from the era of King Solomon. I'm talking about 3,000 years ago. Where do I find that parchment, that scroll, the original, not corrupted? And so, like a madman, I searched and searched and searched, and then all of a sudden I remembered that a master of mine, a Kabbalah master, about 25 years ago, gave me a little green book. And he told me, never show it to anyone. You study it, but never show it to anyone. So I take out the little green book, and it says, The Secrets of King Solomon. I open the first part, and it says, only 100 copies made throughout the world. And then it was all written, handwritten by King Solomon in a handwriting that I don't understand at all. At all. Of course you're not going to understand it. So I took the book and I started to page through it, page by page, without understanding anything. And again, and I went to bed. I didn't see anything. And so I said, it's here. It's here. It's got to be here, I said. And so I took the books that have the corrupted alphabets, and I said, I'm going to see if there's something similar to the corrupted alphabet, because if it's similar, I'm going to find the real alphabet. And again, and another day, thumbing through it without understanding anything, of course, because there are a lot of astral signs and archetypes that I don't understand at all. Because King Solomon spoke with the angels, and the angels would dictate to him how the world worked. He was the wisest man in history, the wisest man in humanity. And so all of a sudden I see some symbols that are similar, that look like that they were similar to the corrupted alphabets in the generalized books for the general public. And so I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to count, see how many symbols there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 22. I said, if it's 22, they correspond to the angelic alphabet of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And so I compared with the general books, and indeed, some signs are similar, but you can tell where they were corrupted. And now I have the authentic. So now, what are we going to do? We're going to take the names of God, the 72 names, Hebrew names. We're going to turn them into the symbology of the King Solomon's alphabet, which are the ones that he used to communicate with the higher angels. And that's going to have the power of influencing all of humanity and the whole world. So we're going to go into a level of meditation that is hitherto unknown. Now, I'm going to ask you once again, why are we offering this class? To know that? No. To help? No. No. We have to cure a cancer of insistent thought, or a tumor of negative thought, which over thousands of years has been accumulating, generating a wave of chaos in the world. Since up until now we had Midat Rachamin, it wasn't too serious, but since we're going into Midat Adin, and now it is turning very serious, we don't have no other choice than take out the heavy artillery. That's the reason that we're offering these classes, so you understand that we're going to break those tumors. We're headed towards very hardcore chemotherapy, mental chemotherapy. Why? Because if we don't manage to do this, it's very simple. We're headed towards the destruction of the human race. As easy as that. And it's not that God isn't good. No. Because, why? Because we're in Midat Adin. It's very simple. You're going to do good. You're going to have a good heart so that everybody can have happiness and abundance. It's a simple law. But since humanity has gotten used of not doing good, of thinking evil, of talking evil, of envying, of having more ambition than what is due, we have to flip the switch. I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished. This thing about when the Mashiach's arrival, that we're going to go from Midat Rachamin to Midat Adin, is a concept of the Zohar, and it's a concept of our oral Jewish tradition or our mystic. But it turns out that there's a German scientist called Schumann, Schumann, who is a quantum physicist who wrote a book called The Quantum Leap. And here we have a very serious problem, because he has proven, A plus B, he has proven how the electromagnetism of the earth is changing. The earth's electromagnetism up until now led the earth to rotate in one direction because of its electrical charge. And it was measured in hertz. And for 2,000 years, this scientist, quantum scientist, tells us of quantum physics that up until now the earth has been receiving or supporting electrical charge, withstanding an electrical charge of 7.8 hertz. And since 2000, that's gone up to 9 hertz when it was stable for 2,000 years. And so he's done a calculation that in February of 2013, it goes from 9 hertz to 13 hertz. And what would that do? That would make the earth stop rotating. And for 3 or 4 days, the earth wouldn't turn because of its electrical charge. And after 4 days, his study says, you can see this on the internet, the earth would start to turn inversely, the other way around. And so what does that mean? What does it mean to turn, to rotate, to stop and turn the other way around? That the temporal space or space-time has changed, and the Midat Rachamin turns into Midat Adin. And that's where the Kabbalah once again connects with physics. Mystic science that was already written for hundreds of years now is corroborated by this physicist. And the question is, how are sages, how could they have known this thousands of years ago? How could they say that when the Mashiach arrives, we go from Midat Rachamin to Midat Adin? Because they weren't quantum physicists. It's very simple. Because they were in contact with intelligence from other dimensions. They said, we talked about that, there are thousands of years ahead of us in science than us. So we have no other choice than to send waves of thought through the earth, because when we get to an electrical charge of 13 hertz, that's when Action-reaction is immediate. And here comes another deeper question. I don't know if I'm going to give the class today or not, finally. Here comes another story. Why has the electromagnetic charge of the Earth spiked? And the electrical charge of the Earth, why has it spiked? And why does it match with what was said by Rabbi Avram Azulai in his book Hesed Le'Avram, a great mystic who did a calculation according to which in the year 5760 the Mashiach would arrive. And with what does 5760 match with? It matches the year 2000. And what does the year 2000 coincide with? It coincides with the time where the electrical charge of the Earth starts to spike. When the 2000 previous years, it was stable. What made it change? And now we're moving from quantum science to meta-quantum science. What is meta-quantum science versus quantum science? Now I'm getting into some terminology that the meta-quantum word is not an insult, so relax. Just like we talk about physics and metaphysics, we talk about the quantum physics and meta-quantum physics. What would be meant by physics and metaphysics? Physics would be what we can prove with formulas, and metaphysics is what you can experience with the science of intuition, the science of the soul, and with all the occult. That would be metaphysics, what's next to physics. But in order to explain the quantum leap of Schumann, we'd have to get into meta-quantum. We'd have to get into quantum physics, but that of the soul. So it wouldn't be quantum anymore. It would be meta-quantum. What has happened in meta-quantum physics? If somebody doesn't understand what I'm saying, please raise your hand, because I don't know if I'm going too fast with this. Yeah, everybody understands it. Great. I love that. When nobody raises their hand, either everybody understood it or nobody has. Meta-quantum is talking about that our Creator is insufflating, imbuing in our universe a fourth dimension, something that up until now didn't exist. What dimensions do we deal with nowadays? We deal with the dimension of time, the dimension of space, the dimension of movement, time, space, and movement. And a fourth dimension that God has injected into this universe, which is what has increased, what has altered the electromagnetism of the planets, because this isn't only going to happen on Earth, it's going to happen in all planets of our system. And what has our Creator injected? He's injected the fourth dimension. What's the fourth dimension? Consciousness. And why has He injected consciousness? Because with that quantum physics, what's happening, that quantum leap, that we're going to go midata rachamin to midata din, if we don't start up our consciousness, it's going to be destruction. But if we start up our consciousness, it's going to be paradise, heaven on earth. In other words, beginning upon the time where we become aware that instead of functioning with hate, we have to function with love. At that time, action-reaction will be that everybody will have food, everybody will have love, everybody will have a spouse. There are no more conflicts, no more divorces. What do you say? What's it called? These abortions. No more abortions. There won't be the cataclysms or wars. And people will trip all over themselves to keep the other person happy. And so the question is, how do you do that? How do you get people to triple over themselves to keep other people happy? And in his book, Matan Torah, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, Seonor, who is the father of the modern Kabbalah, who in the 1950s developed the modern Kabbalah for great dissemination. Before, it was highly hermetic, and he opened it up. He explains in his book, Matan Torah, the delivery of the Torah, an extraordinary example. And I'd like to relate it here because it's very nice. Practically, all human flaws come from fear. Fear to be lacking something, that you lack honor, or that you lack food, or that you lack recognition, that you lack clothes, or a roof, or that you lack for your children. Fears. And even envy or jealousy that somebody else doesn't have a lacking and you do, and that you might be lacking. And so that's the problem. But to create a consciousness of abundance and love, you have to get rid of fear. And that's how Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag resolves this. And he says the following. You can imagine that you live in a city with a population of 300,000. And you are citizen number 300,001. And since there's a wind of consciousness that arrives, the 300,000 citizens decide to take care of me. They're going to forget about themselves, and they're going to work solely for me. And they're going to focus only on me. 300,000 citizens. And they're going to make sure that I lack not a roof, not comfort, not well-being, not love, that I lack nothing. Just imagine 300,000 people devoted solely to pampering me. What's going to happen with my fear? It's going to disappear. Why? Well, because somebody more pampered than me, there won't be anybody on earth. 300,000 people pampering me, spoiling me. And so I no longer worry about myself. What am I going to do? I'm going to become member of the 300,000 others who are concerned about her, who take care of her. So what's she going to do? She's going to take care of the other 300,000 that are going to take care of you. And we're in a system like that of love, in a system of action-reaction that's immediate. This world will be paradise of well-being. When currently, what happens with the 300,000? Each one cares for themselves, and if it's possible to have something and take it from somebody else, even better. So, in other words, we're living in a society that works backwards. It doesn't work with love. It operates with lack of love. But why does it work with a lack of love? Why? Because they don't see the action-reaction, because there's been a time between action and reaction. But as soon as that time disappears, action-reaction is going to be immediate. So thus, all those who are in lack of love, at the time when we have an electrical charge of 13, in other words, that the Earth rotates the other way around, can you imagine the chaos these people can experience? And now, you're going to answer yourselves why we're offering these classes. Do you think that it's to provide you with information and to teach you very nice things? No. Why? What we're looking for here is for all of our mental strength and all of the strength of our soul to generate waves of love, waves of well-being, waves of doing away with problems, setting it into the world and starting to sweep all that garbage that is stuck and accumulated in the universe of negative thoughts. Once you get rid of all that garbage, then the sun will come up. That well-being will come. That's what is called the Messianic era, but the Messianic era will come one way or the other. But merely because of the laws of physics. Any questions? Did you understand why we want to provide these classes? Bravo. Okay. Well, we're going to begin today's class. What? After this brief commentary. What? It was a brief commentary. Today is the 26th of February, 2012. We're at the Ihir Foundation, and we are following the Genesis and Bereshit, the commentaries on the Zohar by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It turns out that the Zohar tells us a story about the moon. And it says that the moon separates from the sun, and it shrinks, it gets smaller, turning into layers of crusts. And those layers of crusts that formed, what they do is to generate a veil over our brain. In other words, it blocks our consciousness. And here, once again, we're dealing with codes. What is the moon? What's the sun? Why does the moon shrink? Why does the moon go to talk to God and tell him, oh, why do I have to be smaller than the sun? Why is the sun still big and then the moon is small? And all of it. This is a huge metaphysical metaphor. So the sun, what is the sun in this metaphor? The sun is consciousness. And what is the moon? The moon is sexual activity. And it says, the fact that the moon has shrunken with respect to the size of the sun, this has generated veils over your brain. And these veils on our brain have created demons on earth. In other words, spiritual forces that are toxic. And now, how do we explain that? You see that the Zohar is highly codified and very secretive. Not only that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our Creator, tells the moon, you see, make yourself small, and you won't have any other light than that which the sun gives you. And you'll never be able to shine other than because of the brightness that the sun will give you. And then it says, because woman can only shine in conjunction with her husband, in union with her husband. Now we have a serious problem of deciphering these codes. We have to decipher what it means. And there it says the following: if the sun is consciousness and the moon is sexual activity, and if the moon has shrunken, gotten smaller, and it can only have the brilliance of that the sun gives it, it means careful. You cannot disconnect consciousness from sexual activity. Why? Because if you disconnect consciousness from sexual activity, the earth will become full of demons, in other words, negative energy. And what does that mean? This division between consciousness and sexual activity means that we're going to have a series of relationships that are purely animalistic or animal, without realizing the power of sexual activity and receiving blessing energies. And the wife or the woman will never be able to shine if it is not through the union with her husband. What does it mean? Who's the husband? That's the sun. Consciousness. Who's the wife or the woman in this case is the moon. The sun represents the husband and the moon represents the wife. And what does it mean? That if consciousness is not devoted into sexual activity, the energy that will come out only from the body, not associated to the energy of the soul, and that generates negative forces. And the other way around, when consciousness is associated with sexual activity, the energy of the soul will enhance the energy of the body, and the two energies will create positive angels. And now we move on to another question. What's the world look like today? Its relationships, marital relationships, are sun with the moon or just the moon without the sun? There you have the question. And notice that the Jewish people, there's a Talmud treatise, the whole thing, that's called the Nida. A whole treatise, which are the laws of when you need to have a relationship with a woman and how, and another treatise on the Brit Milah, regarding circumcision. It's a whole treatise that will talk, the Nida, when the wife has menstruation, how you have to deal with it, and another treatise of when man has circumcision and what circumcision is for. And the Jewish people places a lot of importance on circumcision. Why? Because there's power there. There's power that's associated to consciousness. Consciousness is that flow of energy that's coming to the earth, that's raising the electrical level of the earth. That's what we're talking about. And this now, what's going to happen in the Messianic era? That the moon will recover the size that the sun has, but the sun is going to turn 100 times bigger than the moon. That's what it says. What does that mean, that the sun is going to become 100 times bigger than what it was before? That the level of consciousness that's going to come to earth is going to be enormous. And that if the moon is going to take on the size of the sun, the moon is very small versus the sun, it means that sexual activity is going to be conducted at a high level of holiness to capture very large amounts of energy, positive. And that thanks to that sexual activity that's done appropriately, we're going to eliminate the remains, the peelings, the toxic angels, the toxic energies, and we're going to replace them with positive energies. And that's what's going to purify the earth. And it's going to make this world, one again, a Gan Eden, a Garden of Eden. Why? Because actually, this world wasn't created to suffer, for suffering. This world was created so that man could have a big level of consciousness. And if it doesn't have it, God has imbued it into the universe, and it's on its way. It's about to come, and this is disturbing all the electromagnetic levels of the whole universe. The Zohar later talks about the secret of the name of God of Elohim. Aleph Lamed He Yud Mem. It says that name is divided into two. Aleph Lamed He Yud Mem. The first particle of Elohim is El, Aleph Lamed. That's the name of God that precedes the day and the chesed, in other words, divine goodness. Yud Mem, the last particle of Elohim, that represents the word Yam. Yud Mem is Yam, sea, the sea of the waves. And the sea alludes to matter and precedes night. So within Elohim we have the day and the night, the spirit and matter. But in the middle, there's a letter that is the letter He. So Elohim is El, we have the He, and then Him, or Yem. And the letter He What is it? It's the hinge that lets you go from the world of matter to the world of spirit, and the world of spirit to the world of matter. It means that it connects matter with God and God with matter. And what is the letter He? The letter He, if we count the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, that's the fifth letter. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He. And the fifth letter, what does it allude to? To the five vocalizations of the word, which are guttural, palatal, lingual, dental, and labial. In other words, sounds with the throat, with the palate, with the teeth, with the lips. How many did I say? 5. Seferi, yeah, it's in the Sefer Yetzirah. So what does it mean? That the pronunciation of certain codes takes us from matter to spirit to matter. It allows us. And so how does that work? It says, all celestial forces and the closest are Venus, Mercury, and the Moon, which are intelligences that live inside that shell. Within Venus, within Mercury, within the Moon, there's intelligence, like a soul inside a body. Those energies, celestial energies, irradiate, they give off radiation energy towards the earth and the influence on the earth. But we, with our rights, we can revert the system, and we can influence those celestial energies so that they can send blessings to earth. In other words, instead of working on an automatic pilot system, we activate them. And that's why we have rights. Thus the prayers and holidays, each holiday that has its rights and each prayer that has its system, what it wants to do is to provide instructions to those celestial forces. Okay, we're going to take a break for now because I want to give a little bit of time to meditation. And it's that Jocelyn is a researcher also on energies. She works at the Ramon y Cajal, is it? Yeah. Researching energies. And I think that she's done a study on the issue that has to do with what we're talking about today, the Earth's electromagnetism. And she has something to add to what I said, a little bit to reconfirm this course. She's a scientist more than anything else, although she's discovered a spiritual vein that's growing very strong recently. Go ahead, talk, and talk loudly. Okay. It's that the Earth has a magnetic field and an electric field. We're going to talk especially now about the magnetic field because it's like the shield that protects the Earth from radiation, from stars, particularly solar radiation. It protects it. And the emissions, the radiation from the sun, what is known, are toxic because they cause mutations, development anomalies. But if you take away the shield, the magnetic shield of the Earth is more subjected to interstellar and particularly solar radiation. And that's what's happening now. the Earth's magnetic field is dropping radically. Its power, its value, it's the Earth's magnetic field is constant. When I say constant, in other words, it doesn't have hertz. It doesn't have changes per second. No. Once in a while, it has small variation, but it's constant. It's considered as constant. Value 60 to 70 at the pole and 30 to 40 at the equator. It comes out through the South Pole, it exits the South Pole, and it enters the North Pole. That's why the needle of the compass points north, because it goes like this. So what we've seen is that it's dropping, it's decreasing, and once in a while, and more, there are disturbances, magnetic disturbances of the Earth. So what has been seen also, disturbances. In other words, suddenly the Earth's magnetic field, instead of being homogeneous and in a good state, it's like it's turbulent. Yeah, like a vortex turbulent. It loses a whirlwind. You're talking about the magnetic field, not the electric. No, the magnetic field I'm talking about. And so this causes tremendous changes in the behavior of animals. Animals seem to be more sensitive to these. The most sensitive seem to be whales. They completely lose course. And so, of course, I'm not talking obviously about birds, who use this a lot for orientation. And so you start to see birds that fall, that you find in some countries. But the most susceptible are whales and humans. There you go. And humans become more aggressive. So what's happening? That right now, I will talk later about what's happening in the human brain with this, is that simply what has been seen is that there are areas where the magnetic field of the Earth currently, from more or less for the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years more, has dropped drastically. It's almost zero. Almost zero. It's the area of Brazil and South Atlantic. The South Atlantic. What's happening? That the satellites, when the satellites go over that area, oh man, it's a shitstorm amongst them, because what they broadcast is not governed by the Earth's magnetic field. So the information gets all crossed and mixed up, and so you're going to find planes that disappear, this and that nobody knows why, and chaos. Yeah, it's chaos. Exactly. And so what has been seen, I have noticed this. I've done it. I've seen it. Highly significant. And I've submitted it at a Congress. Poof. And I'm talking about, now we're going to talk about at a scientific level. There's a correlation, a highly significant correlation between the different times that there were a inversion of the Earth's magnetic field. In other words, going south to north, it went from north to south. All of this because of the core that's going through inside the Earth, which right now is chaotic, the core. What's happening at the liquid level, because we have the cortex or the crust. We have the crust of the Earth, like an onion, right? Okay. But what's happening in the core is incredible, what's happening. And physicists are like crazy studying this, what's happening at this time. Because there are areas now that once in a while you can see inversion. What we call going from
Midat HaRachamim
to Mitat Adin. because physics, the only thing is corroborating what the Kabbalah has been announcing for thousands of years. Let's move on to, one more thing, please. One more thing. I'm not going to tell you how this was discovered. It was extraordinary. But we have, all human beings, in our brain, structures that are called magnetosomes with magnetites that receive the Earth's electromagnetic field, that use it or that are more or less abundant in the cerebral cortex, like magnets in the brain, yes, like magnetization centers, yes. And that is something that is incredible, and scientists are afraid of this. Why? Well, because if the magnetic balance changes, we're going to get lost. We're going to be disoriented. Whales are going to start to get to the shore of the sea, so they don't know because they're lost. And birds that are falling out, and the human being now is highly disoriented. Many don't know where they are, where they're going to go, what future they're going to have. They're disoriented. What road to take in their life. There's a disorientation, but that's just the beginning. We've gone from 7 hertz to 9 hertz, and we're headed towards 13 hertz. That's the electrical field. I'm not talking about the electromagnetic. I'm talking about the electrical. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Justine. Okay. For the first time, we're going to work with one of the 72 names of God, which is the wave of consciousness of love, which is totally to the contrary of what we have on earth today. The letters He, Ayin, which already has an amplifying effect. And this is the Metatron alphabet. Metatron is the boss of all the angels. In other words, all the spiritual forces that are non-bodily, which are hundreds of millions of them. That's the boss, the chief, and this is its vocabulary. So we're going to have a repeater of hundreds of millions of angels who are going to act as a repeater of our thought. So we're going to go, now we're going to connect with celestial forces. Here we amplify our thought, but here we connect with our relays, our celestial relays. I'll show you. He, Ayin. And its correspondence in the Metatron alphabet. Who was Metatron? He was a being that was on earth called Hanoch. In Latin, Enoch. Hanoch. And he tells us the story that he went body and soul to another dimension. He didn't die. Another one who had the same thing that happened to him was the prophet Elias, who became the angel, Sandalphon. So this is the language of Hanoch. We speak his language. In other words, we're going to activate forces that are very powerful, that does allow this group to act on the 7 billion population of the world, thanks to this alphabet, which is a thought amplifier. Okay? And so we're going to begin to do the meditation. First, we're going to do it with the 3 letters at the top, and then we're going to do a second meditation with the 3 letters, the special letters at the bottom. No, you're going to listen to me. I'll direct. It's a meditation. We're going to finish the first one, and then there's another meditation, and we'll finish it. It's not in conjunction. We'll do a break. We'll have a break. This is to bring a wave of consciousness of love to earth. Because now the consciousness that exists is fear, and fear turns into, how would I say, into other bad virtues. What's the opposite of a virtue? Defects, flaws. So defects or flaws all derive from insecurity and fear. And so what we have to do is to bring a consciousness of love to make this change. And more so when we're going to go into an era of action and reaction. Okay, feet parallel on the ground, the torso upright, straight, hands, palms up on your knees as a beggar. We're going to close our eyes and we're going to do 3 breaths. Take inhales and 3 inhales and 3 exhales. We breathe in very deeply, positive energy. We hold it for a couple of seconds inside, and we exhale all the tensions that we have from the course of the day. And then once again, we notice how the body relaxes, the legs, the torso, the arms, the neck relaxes, the shoulders drop, the head relaxes. We breathe very deeply. We inhale positive energy deeply. We hold a little bit, and we exhale. Once again, we inhale deeply. We hold, and we exhale. Good. Now we visualize a Star of David, a Magen David, of a golden color, and we're going to call
from right to left
these letters. We are in a golden colored Star of David, and in front of us we have another Star of David that acts as a screen and the size of this room. So we summon on our screen, on the Star of David that acts as a screen, we summon the letter He, and we see it, it's the one that I'm pointing to here, and we see it in white. Now we call the second letter He, we summon it. And we summon the letter Ayin. These 3 letters cause an amplifying effect of consciousness of love, and we bring it to our universe. And now the first letter He, we turn it into a candle, and we light it up as if it was a lit candle. Here at the top part, a little wick, and we visualize it that it's lit. The second He, we visualize it lit up as if there was a little wick in the candle, and the letter Aim, same thing. We join the 3 flames as if they were 3 candles. We join the flames, the 3 in one flame that's going to come out of the top point of the Star of David, that's going to act as a screen, and that's attracted to the top point of the Star of David where we're positioning the screen. And that white light energy, the intertwined energy of the 3 flames will go into the top point of our Star of David, and it goes into our cranium, our skull, and it lights up our brain. Our brain is illuminated. It goes down to the heart gets illuminated. It goes down to the liver is illuminated. Now, we all form a circle as if we were a chorus. And we put the planet Earth in the middle. And from our heart, we bring out a light of a golden color. And we impregnate the earth as if we were to shoot out that light from our heart to the earth, and it's a light of love that will impregnate the earth with an energy of love and of a consciousness of love. Good. This meditation has strength, but now we're going to change the channel and we're going to go up to another meditation with the 3 letters that we see below the 3 that we did. So the first symbol is, if you notice, it looks like a Z at an angle. And don't forget the little balls, because each peak has a little ball. The first K is the one I'm indicating with my finger. That's the symbol of the Metatron alphabet. Then we're not going to light it up, but we're going to see how the little balls, little circles light up with golden light. We move on to the next one, which also is the same. It's the second He. And the Ayin, it's better for you to see it so that you can visualize it. It's like a C inverted, but with its little balls or circles. It only has 3 little circles. And we see the first He, we see how the little balls are illuminated with a very intense golden light. The second He, the little balls light up with a very intense golden light. And the Ayin, the second alphabet, the little balls light up with a very intense light. And we're going to project that light on Earth. But we see a power that is huge, enormous, capable of covering all of humanity, because from those little balls, a light comes out that is from another dimension, and with a force, a power that is unknown. It's providing consciousness of love to the entire human race, and also to all animals and to all beings of creation. The angel Metatron is supervising this transaction that we're doing at this time, this meditation. And together with him is Eliyahu Habi, who is Sandalphon, and who is above the earth doing Birkat Kohanim to the earth. In other words, the blessing of the giving Kohen. Now we see how the angel Metatron is like a great Kohen with a talit so big enough to cover the earth. And he does a berachat to the earth. We are activating all the celestial forces to bring consciousness of love to this world. We continue in a circle, in a chorus around the earth. The earth is it's like a ball that we have in the middle, and on which we're working hard to insufflate energy of love. And we see now how the energy of fear disappears in all human beings. And we see how above the earth, this entire cyst of negative energy dissolves, liquefies, and evaporates. And now we breathe deeply 3 times. Again. Again. We feel our body more heavy now. We insert ourselves in our body once again. And we open our eyes. Well, we've finished the meditation, and now the nice part comes. Everybody talks about their experience, at least those who have had one. Yosef, you, who is the first time meditating for you, what have you seen? The truth is, I needed something like this. Peace. I felt peace. You felt peace. But my question is, have you given others peace? Yes. I think so. Have you visualized something specific? Have you seen how evil dissolved? Light. Good. You, Mimi? It's your first time? It relaxed me a lot. I saw a lot of light. Everything highly illuminated. Yeah, you managed to see. Okay. Now, Racheli, sorry. I was headed over there, but here everybody's going to talk. That's what I felt. Lots and lots of light that comes out. And sheds a lot of light onto the world. It casts a lot of light onto the world. Yuka? Very geographical. I've gone to specific areas. China, India, Madagascar, South America, and so on. I've gone to countries and to the chiefs, the leaders of each country, and they didn't understand very well what was happening to them, because it seemed to them that they were losing a little bit of their power. And we've done work, but it was tough work. We're working. It was like work. I noticed it as, no, it's not something fun. It's consciousness work, very strong. It wasn't like other times, very pleasant and all that. No, it was like that. Like crushing stones. Have you, Justine? As they said, I saw a lot of light come out of the letters. And when we moved on to the Metatron letters, the yellow light was quite strong. And I saw the appearance of Eliyahu Hanabi dressed with some things. I don't know. It was like, not a dress, but it was like with a pink light, clear. And then he put a hand, his right hand, on earth. And then I saw him place his other hand, both hands, on earth. And I saw the appearance of Metatron to the right of Eliyahu Hanabi with his talit, and he had a book. He opened the book. I don't know what the book had, but out of there, we had a stronger yellow light that came out of it. And the earth was full of light. But I saw the sea, the calm sea, rivers, more calm. I saw animals, and I saw human beings, and I saw the face of a human being with a smile of peace, like saying thank you. And we finished. Sandra? Well, first, my head hurt. Yeah, me too. It was tremendous. Like my eyes were coming out. Pain. And something that never happened to me, like so intense. And then when we were sending the light to the earth, I don't know, it's because we talked about it, but magnetic fields and things that moving, and the earth was moving, and there were some energies that were leaving and others that were taking its place. But it's like the earth was revolving. And then when Metatron came and Eliyahu Hanabi, especially in the Beracha of it hurt a lot here. Okay, where here? In the nape, the back of the neck. And I don't know. And then it was interesting. I wasn't going to say it, but they had like plates. They were supervising, and they had, I don't know what those plates had, but they reflected light. And I don't know. And so it's like at the same time that we were working on this, I don't know. They had plates that were polarizing what we were doing. I don't know. I can't explain it. Like adjusting the lights, right? Yeah, something like that. Good, Manuel? Well, the projection of... And I am... I saw the earth and the shape. A golden shape. The second were so strong that they were... The north side, the north portion was like black, and it was hard for me to... The earth got so big and big that it was like the shining of the sun, and then the light managed to make it and illuminate the whole earth, especially with the letters. Mateo? I saw something I had never seen. It turned into some kind of a sticky cream that there was no way to avoid it. That cream was absorbed by us or the whole planet with the second letters. No, the first letters. And then I started to see our reality. It was like a negative, like photography. Yeah. And what was negative, what had a negative appearance, all of a sudden turned positive with a lot more colors, a lot more brilliance, brightness, and the earth was turning like an orange, and it turned inside out. What was inside out, and it was much more bright, luminous. Ana, Maria? First I saw something strange, like a mural of black points. It was like a parchment written, and a distortion of space. When you start, you're disoriented. A bombardment of light, bottom up, up down. There's a medium. It's relaxed me so much. Oh, you fell asleep. You fell asleep, right? Before I projected a light towards Iran. You sent some love over that way, right? Yeah, that was Dina. The first time I've seen a lot of colors, it reminded me of the Aurora Borealis, the polar lights. Lots of luminosity, but with different colors. Over there in the back. Yeah, I can't see you. There, I see you. Feel well after meditation? Okay. Take your shoes off. You got socks on? Take your socks off. And walk barefoot. Ready? Did you take... Yeah? I'm going to tell you why you don't feel well. You went too high. Now you got to come down to earth more. So now you're going to get more in contact with the ground, with the earth. On the carpet or no, on the floor. Get up and walk with your feet on the floor, not on the carpet, on the floor. You go all the way to one end and come back, and you'll see how good you feel. No, let her walk. In contact with the floor, with the ground, and you walk. You keep walking, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Deborah, nothing. Okay, Antonio. Well, what happened to me was, out of the earth, very dark round shape, and some rings appeared around the earth. Another one that went around the equator, and they've deployed, and they've covered they opened up and covered the whole earth. And then 3 entities appeared who have provided their energies, a stream of white light over the earth. They went in and came out on the other side. From side to side or north to south? No, side to side. Ivan? Well, some time ago, I took a trip to the States, and my mother asked me for a souvenir. And so, since we were becoming familiar with the Torah and the Hebrew letters, I bought her a pendant, but I didn't know what pendant it was. When I gave it to her, we looked what the meaning of the pendant was, and it was He Ayin. So somehow, now we have it more integrated than others. So she'll tell that story. It was very special. This one. Meditation was very powerful. Very powerful. While I meditated the name, very well, powerful, integrated. And as you were leading the meditation, it wasn't that I was getting ahead, but I was getting prepared because it was powerful. And the stream of golden light of the earth was coming out of the heart. It had the symbology of Metatron. Schools I sent it to, hospitals. Keep walking. Back and forth. Barefoot. If your feet are cold, doesn't matter. Lastly, something that I don't tend to see in meditations, I focus on feeling, and this time, when we sent the light, focused on a part of the earth. At the other end of the earth, there were black birds that were fleeing. Good. Very good sign. That's a very good symbol. Good. Phil? I share the perception. Hard work. Lots of energy. It's demanding. I find myself very hard for me sometimes to rise, but I rose with the letters of Metatron. I felt like a turbo. Yeah, turbo energy, right. That's provided results. Of course. Maybe it's too strong. Not everybody can tolerate it. You've seen. What happened to me too is that the earth was moving all over the place to receive. Without receiving energy, I just fill it with the Hebrew letters, and then with Metatron, the little balls were impacting against Earth. But each ball, the Hebrew name was written, inscribed on each Ayin. That's nice. Yeah, it was beautiful. As if it was, I don't know, like a piece of jewelry. And it went into any place of the earth, but deep, deep into the countries, the trees, everywhere, because everything had to be covered. And those little balls with that name started to form a grate around the earth in many directions, like protecting the earth. And it was like, it all looked like a golden filigree. You got to call Spielberg, boy, with everything that you're telling. He can, make a good movie. When you said the name of Metatron, I visualized like a Magen David, and many dimensions came to my, and rotating very strongly with lots and lots of light. But it was geometric figures. I don't know, like a type of Merkabah in several directions. Yeah. Baba Harfas Nati Latidiem. Elebiti. Debonique. I've seen similar things to Elizabeth. It's also hard for me. It was hard for me. Cumbersome, especially the second ones. The first one was good, but the second one was more powerful. But what draws my attention is that through those lights, those little balls, it was an access to another dimension. Truly, through that open channel, there was an access to an unknown dimension where it wasn't us acting, but we were putting that there so that a superior power could work. That's what drew my attention. Also, the light that was projected. At the beginning it was golden, but then it turned pink. I think I've visualized well, but in the second part I think I got a little bit lost. If the three letters had to be placed in another Magen David or not. The thing is that I did see in the first name a strong flow. The second one was huge, uncalculable. It penetrated the earth. Everything. That light imbued everything. And I also saw the flow of that light from the hearts of all people and into the hearts. And also curious was, I went in on a macro scale and a micro scale. I was zooming, and I saw myself like a dragonfly. I saw myself flying over a meadow, calm, and then a much more expansive perspective. People, countries I saw. Very good, very well. I saw immediately how Metatron Sandalphon mobilized. Hundreds of millions of angels. I saw a power mobilized because we mobilized it. They've come. They came and they started to do the work because we've summoned them. We've called a meeting, an important meeting. And then I saw how the part of that conglomerate of dark thoughts dissolved. It was liquefying. It turned into drops instead of being something insisted. It was dissolving, turning. But the important thing is that we've summoned them. You saw the angels. Yes, we've summoned them. We've called the right phone number. We dialed the right phone number. You want to explain what you saw or not yet? You feel better now? Yeah? You can put your shoes on, okay? The drawings below was a chit, the letter chit, and then it was a lot about letters. A che, another che, and then a vav, and then a zadik, and then two columns, and between the two columns, the name of God. And then the lion and eagle holding it. What did you feel? Like a ball of energy that entered. That's what I felt. Strong. That it entered into you? You didn't project it to Earth? So you didn't send it out. It's that you've combined letters that I didn't ask for. That's the problem. I didn't either. They just came to me. Okay. Very well then. Session adjourned.